Parenthood is challenging enough as it is, and getting organized sounds easier said than done. Now, combine these two together, and it's truly a balancing act that many of us struggle with day in, day out. If you're here, it's because you want to know how to get your life and home more organized and structured where the kids are involved too, so that parent life is a little easier and you can focus on what truly matters. Hey there, I'm Dianne Jimenez, owner and founder of One Tidy Place. I created this podcast because I know parents have their hands full. I know this because I have 3 kids of my own. Each week, we'll talk about all things organizing, teaching kids life skills, and contributing to the home, being on the same page with your partner, and raising your kids together while you tidy up, go out for a walk, or just need some real talk. I'm here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Organized-ish Parent Podcast. Today's a special episode because I am having a conversation with my guest, who is my husband, Onnig. So I'll do an introduction there. So you'll get to see him on camera live. Well, not live, but you'll get to see him, what he looks like now that I do my podcasts and put them out on YouTube also. So anyhow, I explain a little bit why I'm doing this podcast with him, but I just want to give you a heads up first that that it's him and I doing this, and also that if the audio is a little wonky, I apologize. I didn't have a microphone directly connected to us, so I know for the next time, but also that it's probably be best to listen to it on a faster speed, like more than 1, so maybe 1.5 or 1.7, because it sounds a lot better than on regular speed. Trust me, I'm editing it right now, and yeah. So I hope you enjoy this episode and get some great takeaways from it. So if you want to leave a review, I totally appreciate it, and I'm going to drop it right now at the beginning of this episode. So yeah, do that, and I would be so appreciative of you. So enjoy, and see you soon. All right, so I was going to do this episode solo, where it's talking about parent partnership and getting on the same page with your partner. So instead of doing it myself and telling you how it is at our house, I said, why not just invite the husband along for the ride? So for those of you who are new, who don't follow us or follow me, thank you for being here, and here's a little proper introduction of the husband. This is Onnig. Say hi.
Hi.
So this is the second interview, or second time that Onnig is on the podcast, but this time it's our first
on video,
and it's a little scary. It's a little weird to talk on camera, and so if we screw up or I screw up, whatever.
Just go with it.
We're going to roll with it. That's how we roll. Okay. So today, for this week's topic, it was about checking in, about being on the same page with your partner. So first off, what is getting on the same page? What is our definition of being on the same page for something, especially in regards to the kids learning new skills or getting them to help out at home? Yeah, so go ahead. You can chime in.
Sure, I'll give my 2 cents. Being on the same page, a lot of people sometimes misconstrue it, thinking that the same page means we agree. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, because we're fundamentally different people. Being on the same page is that we agree on what we're going to do. Okay? Now, let me to elaborate. So there maybe there's a topic, and Diane might think we should address it this way. We should be very strict about it. And I might say, you know what? It doesn't matter. We might be very loosey-goosey about it. And ironically, it's usually the opposite, but just for the sake of this, being on the same page is agreeing that we're going to take one approach, as opposed to she's going to do it her way and I'm going to do it my way. And now the kids are, not only are they confused, but they find cracks. So, okay, and they'll exploit this crack, not because they're mean or malicious, just because, we always want the easiest path, and sometimes we have 3 kids, as you know, Diane mentions it. And a common thing we hear often is, oh, they outnumber you. You have more kids than adults you are. And I sometimes wonder, that's a funny thing, because a lot of times when you're not on the same page or you haven't agreed on the strategy, you've divided yourself. So it's not, I only have 2 kids on 2 parents. It's 2 on 1 and 2 on 1, as opposed to a mutual front, So, but anyway, just to circle it back, what we talk about checking in and being on the same page is agreeing on the approach. Okay, and we have a funny way of doing it. When the kids were a little younger, sometimes I would tell the kids something. I'd be like, "Hey, this," and then he would, or she, depending on who, would turn and look at Dianne, and I'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't look at her. She's gonna say the same thing," which emphasizes, no, this is the way we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and I think we've been doing that since they were younger, and now that they're teen, a tween, and an almost tween. They don't even ask any questions. They don't even think about it. They just know that mom and dad are in it together. They're on the same page. There's no cutting corners on this one. So when it comes to in this topic, we grazed a little bit on why it's important on the kids' perspective, so that it's a united front. There's no loopholes for the kids. But as far as a couple, why is this important that we're on the same page? I know it's so obvious, but sometimes, having a conversation between 2 people about it just helps validate your thoughts and your feelings, as opposed to having just the thoughts in your head of why it is. It's always, we're checking in right now. This is not rehearsed at all. So why do you think it's important for you to check in with me and for me to check in with you?
I think you said something which is not necessarily obvious. You said it's obvious. And sometimes we sit in our heads and I'm like, yeah, of course she thinks that. Or of course we're on the same page. Or of course we agree on this topic. And sometimes, no, you don't. Because it never came up. You never communicated, or you're in the habit of, just like your kids want the path of least resistance, you do it. It's like, you know what? This is going to be a hard conversation. It's not that I don't really care that much. Why have the conversation? And then what that does is it adds up, and then it bites you in the butt. I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this podcast. So. Oh,
just in case you do. There might be some swearing.
So it's easy to take for granted things that one person might think is, oh yeah, no, that's how it is. We agree, but you've never actually had the conversation.
Right, or it might be an older conversation from when you guys were a lot younger in your relationship. Either it was before kids and you had this conversation before, and now you're well into your married life with kids and life is going. You assume that the person is still on that same page of that topic. So that's where the importance is, I think, is not to assume that the person is still in that same frame of mind and they're still go with that process of doing something or that goal that they want to have. So,
and the irony is, this morning we had gone for breakfast, and we kind of talked about this, where you grow and maybe the strategy changed and you're allowed to pivot. So what do we mean? You make the best decisions with the information you had at the time. At that moment, it's the best decision. You shouldn't second guess what you're doing, but you should also be able to, you as in the team, the unit, should also be able to sit back, go back. You know what? We thought this, it made sense, but it didn't work. Or, not that it didn't work, it didn't give the results that you expected. And it's like, you know what, let's try this instead. But that only comes with actually discussing it or talking about it. And again, the discussion is not necessarily an hour-long meeting with an agenda and this and that. It's just...
It can be several conversations that spread out throughout the week or comes back and forth, depending on your schedule, depending on your frame of mind at the time when you actually think about that topic. So...
But it might just be, take your phone, put it down, turn around, look, and say, hey, how about this?
Yeah. Yeah. So we covered what is checking in. We covered why it's important in regards to the kids, and also why
and each other.
It's important for us as a team to discuss these things, because things might have changed over the years, over the months, over the weeks. So has it happened where we went ahead with something and we're like, oops, in the last 17 years that we're together? I'm sure, it's not always, we don't always check in Hey, are we ready to jump? Let's do this. There's been times where, oh crap.
Again, so the topic's going to come up. Yeah, but what if I need to pull the trigger? Okay, like what if I'm at the whatever and I had to make a decision. The reality is that if you know each other enough, most times, and I say most, let's say 9 out of 10 times, what you assumed you guys would agree on, you agree on. Like you know what bothers your spouse, and you know what doesn't, and it's a choice to do one or the other.
Yeah.
So, for example, there's days where I'll come home from work and I'm like, oh, did a Costco run, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to cook supper, and I'm like, hey, and I'm looking, and I see bowls of popcorn and chips, and I'm like, it's 5:20. Yeah, exactly. It's 5:20, and we eat supper around 6, let's say. I'm like, I can still smell the popcorn from the microwave as I'm walking in at 5:30. In my head, I'm like, I'm about to go and rush and make supper, and all these guys are full of popcorn. So it happens. Fortunately, I just go to jiu-jitsu during those times and they eat, so whatever, figure it out. But my point being is that sometimes, yeah, you have to make it. We're adults, we're grown-ups. They don't control me. My spouse doesn't tell me what to do. It's not the point. There are times where you make a choice, you make a decision because you weren't able to touch base before. But the key is in touch base after.
Yes.
Touch base right after, as soon as you can. Not because I owe it to her or she owes it to me, because you're on the same page. You're on the same team. I was telling this to my son. I got upset at him this week. He had a so grade in a class, and he gave me an excuse why he didn't do well in an assignment. And I told him, you know what you're telling me is what you tell other people to try to convince them. But we're on the same team. Your success is my success. Your achievements are my achievements. I'm not asking you or looking to check in or giving you my 2 cents because I'm indifferent. It's because the more you benefit, the more you get out of it, the more I get out of it. When you understand that, it helps understand, oh, okay, I'm not checking in because I'm the child or the one who needs to be accountable for. We're just being on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned follow-up because I feel that a lot of parents blame life, blame busyness, schedule, distractions because of your phone, or, a kid is crying, or, there's another fire to put out with the kids and their arguments and stuff. I find that a lot of people don't check in afterwards, touch base, not necessarily to argue or like, oh, you did this wrong or you did that wrong. Maybe it's possible that it happens, but like, how did you feel about the way we went about this? I mean, sometimes we have those conversations, like at night we're lying in bed and it's like, I didn't like that feeling after, you said this, or how I said that. I saw that you winced, or you're kind of like looking at me weird. I noticed. Why is that?
And maybe I didn't notice.
Yeah.
So like I just said before, you assume, or we assume that what the other person would have answered, but you can only assume that if you've actually had these postmortems. The postmortem isn't for something which just happened, which you can't change. You can't go back in time. But what it does is it empowers you, or it gives you a reference point for the next time, for the next answer. So like this morning, again, we went for breakfast. Yesterday we went out. I wasn't wearing a hat. My wife said, hey, you're not wearing a hat.
It's minus 21.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not wearing a hat. So today, I put on a hat. It's just a silly example. And then she said, oh, you're wearing a hat today. I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing a hat because yesterday you mentioned it. Not because of anything else. But if your partner is truly your number one, why wouldn't you want to make them happy? Yeah, but I'm my own person and I'm an individual. And sure, whatever, no problem. But then you're going to be an individual alone. Or you're causing turbulence or difficulty for no reason. Because now you have teammates, for lack of a better term, that don't want to be on your team. Who don't want to pass you the ball. Who don't want to,
It's like that example of like, be the kid that everybody wants to play with.
That's right.
Or be the partner that your partner wants to hang out with and support and be around.
So, like, not to get controversial, because I don't know who listens to who, but Jordan Peterson talks about how when a kid goes out to play, the objective is not to win the game. The objective is to go out and play more games. You want to be that kid that people want to play with. You want to be that person people want to, enjoy being with,
Yeah, and I think it's important, coming back to with the kids and stuff, it's important for them to see both parents get along, or just to be on the same level, I guess, and respect is huge, because that becomes their blueprint for whoever they decide to find in the future. Is it someone that they're going to find as their equal, or is it someone that they're going to find someone that they can just belittle and, or be submissive to, because that's what they've seen and grown up with this whole time.
We want to emphasize, though, also, it doesn't mean you all agree and everything's perfect.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. That's why you're communicating. If you agreed on everything, you're probably not sharing, because it can't be.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everything's the end of the world, but you're an individual, and you, like, I have a lot of things. I don't like people. I don't like sitting in certain spots in the restaurant. I don't like my back to the crowd. I don't like loud noises. I know, ladies, sounds like a keeper, whatever. Even at our wedding, I said it. There's a lot of things that bother me, which is everything. And fortunately, I found the one person that knows how to manage them, and that's a choice that she makes, because that's somehow a win for her. And then I have to not take that for granted. Like, it's the appreciation that it's give and take. And give and take exactly means that. And what Dianne was saying, that's a reflection, that's a direct reflection to your kids. They see that, hey, you know what? Sometimes things don't work out. Hey, sibling, sometimes you don't get your way, but that's okay, because that's how life works.
Yeah. Okay. I think we covered the what is it and why it's important. So in regards to checking in and getting on the same page, when should couples, parents, or even adults who are caring for the children, and that person might not be your spouse or your partner, maybe it's like, another your sibling who is helping you take care of the children, or your in-laws or your parents helping you take care of the children. When is it a good idea? I know we covered the after, like the post-mortem, which is huge importance, a big game changer, I find, for like the future pacing of how things will roll out. So in general, we check in how many times a day?
Yes. We check in. We don't check in. We're just always checked in.
In a sense, where like
when I get to work, Diane's home. When I get to work, I text her that I'm at work. She knows where I'm going to be, but I check in. Dianne has talked about the Google Calendar that we keep, I'm sure, where we have, just to be aware of where each other is. If she has
appointments,
a podcast interview happening, I'm like, oh, don't be surprised that she's not answering the phone. It shows right there. If I have a meeting or a client I'm visiting, it says the same thing, And then throughout the day, we'll send a text, especially with technology nowadays, because nothing stops you from being interrupted. Your phone's on silent. I send a text. Everybody has a group chat, so I send a message on our chat, checking in, thinking of you.
Yeah.
What's up, or having a crappy day, or having a great day. This happened.
Yeah.
Just because we can. It's so easy. It's so simple.
Now, people might be thinking like, oh, I'm responding right away. I'm not.
No.
There are days where I'm super busy, or I forget that I guess because life is happening, that I don't even respond back until hours later. But there are other days where it's like, good morning, and then maybe like half an hour later, I'm like, oh, I'm here, and this is what I'm doing. And then sometimes it's just random where I'm having a really bad day, and it was really crappy. And I'll give him a whole blog about my day. So I think we serve each other as each other's rock and therapist.
And it also helps you out, because if you get a soliloquy of chaos, you know what you're walking into when you get home.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what do you mean? Do you tiptoe? No, you're aware.
Yeah.
Just be aware.
I think that's a huge thing, a really big, important reason of why just letting the person know how your day is going, not just saying, oh, I'm having a great day, but really like, this was crap, or this was amazing, or whatever, or I'm so mad. So that when that person comes home, when you do connect again later that day, that there's that respect, that support, and that sensitivity with the other person, and they're there, hopefully they're there, because he can come back home too and just be like, 10 minutes before shutdown, that he leaves for the day, like all hell breaks loose at work. And then now he went from okay to, rain cloud over his head coming home, as well as me having a really crappy day. So
it also helps keep the kids engaged, because there's many times I come home and my kids are like, hey, Baba, I heard this happen, or I heard that happen. We talk about, it's the cliches. Oh, my kid's a teenager, and I ask him how his day is, and I only get a 2-word answer, and this and that. Well, you know what? That engagement, I sometimes have to make a point of not take for granted that they're asking. Because if I give them a 2-word answer, how's your day? It's okay.
yeah,
Well,
don't expect.
Now I'm a hypocrite. It's the same thing. Yeah, but your day's long and you worked hard and you know what? Yeah, sure. But in the long term, you're setting precedents. And parenting is you're always on.
Yeah.
Relationship, you're always on. You don't get a break per se. You can't. Yeah, but I like to turn it off, and I have my own time and this and that. Well, no, because that's also a compromise. 4 nights a week, I go out.
4 nights? No, a lot more.
Well, nights. 4 to 5 days a week, 6 days a week.
Yeah, 5 to 6 days a week.
5 to 6 days a week, I go to jiu-jitsu, either to help with the kids' classes or classes on my own, or go and spend time with my friends. And
it's also your release. It's his.
It's my time.
It's his time to like.
Yeah, it's my time. Like for right now, I should be at jiu-jitsu now, but I'm here with you guys. So not every day. But what was my point on that? So it's like you have to understand that even though I'm there, I have to be cognizant of what's happening at home. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of pick your fights. If the house is burning, you don't say, well, time to check out. It's not my problem. I gotta go.
Yeah.
And vice versa. On the other side, sometimes I know Dianne does it, where she's like, oh, I know you have jiu-jitsu tonight. You move accordingly. Or communicate the opposite. I know you have jiu-jitsu tonight, but this, and this.
Yeah.
And the way that kind of works is you can't pull that card all the time. You can't be like, depending on what the spouse's activities are. Do they have an outlet? Now, Diane's saying 5 nights a week, or 6 times a week. 3 of them or 4 of them, I go with the kids. So I drive the kids. It's their class.
He's present.
He's
with the other children too, not just our kids.
So it's not like I'm going to the bar and having a great time, whatever. Not that I'm not saying I don't enjoy it, but it's just a perspective. It's like if you're a coach or if you're a volunteer for one of your kids' activities and you go and it happens to be every week, that's time you're putting in. Mm-hmm. I also look at it where, hey, I'm giving her time because I'm going to take all of them. We're going to leave at a certain time, and hey, make sure you have a book, make sure you have a snack, because we're going to be at the gym from this time to that time. And
he's talking about the kids, not
I'm
me.
I'm talking about the kids, and it gives Mama time to do
whatever she wants
what
to
she
do.
needs to do.
Yeah.
So you kind of find those middle grounds.
So what would we suggest, or what's the first thing we would want to advise? And we talk to a lot of our friends who are parents, even like parents who are not even our friends, like we just like acquaintances and stuff. Like he gets a lot of questions from his buddies at jiu-jitsu, and they're not his age. A lot of them are younger, than him. So he's the big old man at the gym. So I find it very interesting. The questions that the guys ask him about like couplehood, marriage life, I get a little bit of the insights of what these guys ask, and I find it so, I don't know, it's just awesome.
Some of it is a jackpot because they try to figure it out. I have 3 kids, I'm married, and I'm at the gym 6 days a week. They're like, hey, how does that work? I'm like, well, it works out. Plus, we said before, be the kid people want to hang out with. So our 3 kids, because the classes are adjacent, like the kids' classes finish and the adult class start. So a lot of the adults, a lot of my teammates, they know our kids, and our kids are social with them. And I always tell our kids, I don't want you guys to be the kid that I can see in their eyes, man, that kid's still here. I can't wait till he leaves because he's super annoying, or she's super, rude, or what have you, like that's very important to us. So because they have that almost a friendship with these grown-ups, like legit, and especially in jiu-jitsu, because in jiu-jitsu you spar, you have contact. So sometimes I'm getting ready to go to class and I see my youngest is literally rolling with one of my friends. He's on his back with a choke on and this and that, and they're playful. So that to me is a sign of mutual camaraderie, a level of maturity from our kids, a level of understanding from our peers. So they often ask, hey, what about this? How do you do that? How do you deal with this? And I'll be honest, I don't mind sharing.
So I think because I get it on either sides too, and I read like in different parent forums and stuff like that, like just couples who are not on the same page, and like it's so off balance. One person expected to do all of these things, and the other person, I'm at work all day, I do all of this, so I have the right to go home and
have my time,
do my own thing,
take off.
So I think what I wanted to come out to this was saying like, what's our first advice with new parents, new couples, or parents who are just trying to reconnect again? Like, what would be our message to you? And that is,
the first one would be agree on what we agree on. Agree on the approach.
The approach.
Yes. Let's pick a game plan, and let's stick with it. Are we passing or are we running? Irrelevant of what you think and what I think, what do we think?
How should we go about
How are we going? And
such?
And don't undermine each other. Okay? Because when you undermine each other, first of all, it's disrespectful to each other. Who wants that? Treat people the way you want to be treated? I don't want to be undermined. I don't want to be like dying on a rock, explaining this and that, only for it all to be canceled. Yeah, but mom said this. I'm like, hey,
yeah.
So that's one thing. And that's probably the number one thing. Don't undermine each other. Agree on the approach and stick to it.
And the final thing would be to, in case the approach or something went wrong, is to have a team meeting afterwards and discuss how to go forward, how to go about things, how to readjust, pivot, and then keep going forward.
Everything doesn't have to be one decision. There's someone I listen to, and he talks about how, everyone tells me I make such great decisions. And he says it, I don't make great decisions. I just make the next decision I need to make, which might be that much further, and then that much further. And that way you can adjust as needed. Yeah. So, you're not committing everything to.
Right. I think if you have a great partner, it works.
Aren't you lucky?
All right, well, that's it for us today. If you have questions that you want answered from the both of us, I'm sure Onnig will be back here again, ready to answer your questions, your dilemmas, not just you, but like both of us together. So we're inviting you to ask whatever it is that you want to ask. We will be gladly responding to them. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Onnig.
Thank you.
All right, class go run.